Welcome to Podcast Infinity. I don't think anyone today doesn't know about Tutankhamun or the importance of discovering his tomb. But let me tell you a lot of things from a slightly different perspective. The importance isn't in Tutankhamun himself, because from what we know about him, he didn't accomplish any achievements in his life, no wars he fought, nor anything significant he did during his reign, which began at the age of 9 from 1334 BC to 1325 BC. The whole idea is that his tomb, number 62, was discovered in the Valley of the Kings on the western bank of Luxor, and it was intact. No theft, no damage, and no signs of entry since it was sealed and stamped. One of the controversial aspects about Tutankhamun, or the living image of Ammonius, as his name means, is the manner of his death. It was widely believed that he died under mysterious circumstances at a young age, approximately 18 years old. Most of the evidence came from analyses and X-rays conducted by the universities of Liverpool and Michigan on his body in 1969 and 1979, suggesting that he was murdered. His mummy revealed a few observations, such as a hole at the back of his skull and a dark spot, believed to be internal bleeding due to a blow to the back of his head in a successful assassination attempt. This theory was supported by the presence of a fracture in his femur bone and the subsequent crowning of his advisor and father figure, Minister I, as King of Egypt. The scenario suggested was that someone hit him on the back of his head while he was on horseback, causing him to fall, break his leg, and suffer internal bleeding, which led to his death. However, starting in the 2000s, more recent studies debunked this theory and attributed the hole to the mummification process, which involved removing the skull's contents. They also revealed that Tutankhamun had been severely weakened since childhood. The most notable analyses were conducted in 2005 and 2010, uncovering facts that weren't evident in the analyses of the 1960s and 1970s, thanks to advancements in research methods and medical analyses over more than 30 years. From these analyses, we learned that Tutankhamun was approximately 170 centimeters tall, had an incomplete palate, and an abnormally shaped skull, pointing to a possible case of Marfan syndrome, a hereditary disorder that affects connective tissues and is characterized by elongated limbs. It appeared that Tutankhamun inherited this condition from a family member. Preliminary DNA analyses indicate that his father might be Mummy KV55 and his mother is the younger lady, although there is no conclusive evidence of his lineage yet. He is likely the son of King Akhenaten, known for his distinctive features due to hormonal imbalances that gave him a feminine body. It is highly probable that Tutankhamun suffered complications from this inherited condition, which in most cases is passed on by 75% from the parents. It is now widely believed that his femur fracture, which happened earlier in his life and wasn't properly treated, caused sepsis and gangrene, the death of cells and tissues in the wound area due to a lack of oxygen and nutrients from the blood. This was further exacerbated by the malaria parasite found in his mummy, which likely caused severe complications that his frail body couldn't withstand. The analyses also revealed that he suffered from heart and vascular issues, spinal curvature, and a deformity in his left big toe, which left his entire foot atrophied, making it difficult for him to walk properly. This could explain the depiction of Tutankhamun in his chariot, shooting arrows while seated rather than standing like other pharaohs. It also explains the abundance of sticks and canes found in his tomb, about 100 in total. Initially thought to symbolize authority and power, they were later revealed to be actual walking aids, which Tutankhamun used in his lifetime and were placed in the tomb for his use in the afterlife. Unlike what most people think, Tutankhamun's name didn't first emerge through Howard Carter, the discoverer of the tomb on November 4, 1922, funded by British Lord Herbert Carnarvon. The name was known years earlier. Specifically, in 1906, the archaeologist Theodore Davis was conducting excavations in the Valley of the Kings near the location of Tutankhamun's tomb when he found a colored pottery jar with Tutankhamun's name on it. This discovery made him suspect that a complete tomb was located nearby. He continued excavations near the tomb of King Horemheb, nicknamed Horus the Beloved, and found a pit about 7 meters deep. After digging further, he uncovered a small wooden box made up of several golden plates, one of which bore the names of Tutankhamun and his wife Ankhesenamun, also known as Ankhesenamun, whose name inspired the character in the movie The Mummy. Davis continued his excavations until he reached a shaft about 100 meters south of this location. There, he found several pottery jars, including a tall wine jar and another wrapped in a piece of linen cloth inscribed with the date year 6 of the reign of Tutankhamun. The jars were placed alongside piles of linen cloths, which Davis believed were remnants of the mummification process. At this point, he concluded that the original tomb had been looted and that these items were all that remained. Losing hope, he abandoned his search. A few years later, Howard Carter arrived to continue excavations in the area. His work was focused between the tombs of Ramses VI and IX. Carter's team removed piles of debris from Ramses VI's tomb, unknowingly dumping it onto the buried tomb of Tutankhamun. This accidental concealment shielded the tomb from grave robbers for over 3,000 years. It wasn't until sheer coincidence that the magnificent tomb was discovered. It's said that one of the workers digging a tunnel for Ramses VI's tomb felt thirsty and asked 12-year-old Hussein Abdul Rasul to fetch him water. While running to bring water, Hussein tripped, and his foot got stuck in a hole among the debris. When the workers expanded the hole, they found the top of a staircase descending into the earth. This discovery caused their hearts to race with excitement. Abandoning everything, they began clearing the debris and digging to reveal 16 steps leading down to a corridor sealed with a door bearing the seal of King Tutankhamun, untouched for approximately 3,000 years. The tomb itself isn't large, about 30 meters in length. After the staircase, there is a corridor about 7 meters long, leading to a rectangular antechamber measuring 8 meters by 3.67 meters. From this room, two smaller chambers branch out to the north, one containing the sarcophagus and the other filled with treasures, approximately 3,500 items in total. Additionally, a small room branches off the antechamber to the west. The walls of the tomb are not decorated as one might expect, except for the burial chamber, which features scenes from the Book of the Dead depicting Tutankhamun's journey to the afterlife. Until a few years ago, it was thought that everything about the burial chamber had been discovered, despite its modest size and lack of lavish decorations befitting a king. Most believed that Tutankhamun's unexpected death forced priests to prepare the nearest available tomb quickly. However, in 2015, Japanese radar expert Hirokatsu Watanabe revealed findings from ground-penetrating radar scans that suggested the possible existence of hidden burial chambers behind the tomb's walls. To this day, no definitive evidence has been found. This is the scientific and historical portion of the story. As for the part concerning the curse of the pharaohs, I'll share it shortly. But do you really want to know? Before delving into the curse, here's a gift. A collection of photographs taken during the discovery of the tomb and over the subsequent 8 years by photographer Harry Burton. Originally black and white, these images were later colorized by the Griffith Institute at Oxford University, bringing them to life. The photos allow us to witness the event exactly as it happened starting in 1922. The images are arranged chronologically, with commentary to help you understand and feel the story behind each one. December 1922. Some of the items discovered included a royal couch with animal heads, wooden chests, jars, and vessels, all placed against the western wall of the main chamber. December 1922. Another set of tomb contents, most notably a white chest containing a collection of linen clothing along with 18 canes and 69 arrows. December 1922. The northern wall of the tomb, adorned with 2 guardian statues. December 1922. Additional wooden chests placed beneath a couch with a lion's head and body, along with an ivory child's chair. November 1923. Howard Carter and his colleague Arthur Chandler wrapping one of the guardian statues in linen in preparation for moving it out of the tomb. December 1923. Arthur Mace and Alfred Lucas stabilizing one of the chariots found in the tomb. December 1923. Carter, Chandler, and 2 Egyptian workers lifting the lid of one of the 4 nested coffins. December 1923. The coffins viewed from above, with colorful murals visible on the burial chamber walls in the background. December 1923. Howard Carter standing on a ladder, with archaeologist Arthur Chandler and 2 Egyptian workers, preparing tools to separate the 4 nested coffins. December 1923. From the right, an Egyptian worker, archaeologist Arthur Mace, and Carter removing the linen covering from the coffin. January 1924. Archaeologists Arthur Mace and Alfred Lucas working to restore one of the guardian statues depicting the king wearing the royal Nimes headdress, sandals, and holding his scepter. January 1924. One of the most iconic photos showing Carter kneeling alongside Chandler and an Egyptian worker as they peer through the nested coffins at the innermost one containing the royal mummy. October 1925. Carter examining the lid of the second coffin, still resting within the third. The mummy was encased in 4 nested coffins, one of which, made of solid gold, is now displayed on the second floor of the Egyptian Museum. October 1925. The golden cover of the king resting on the mummy inside the innermost coffin. October 1926. A wooden chest depicting the god Anubis, covered with a linen shroud. October 1926. A row of wooden chests in the inner chamber, ending with a canopic chest containing jars that held the king's internal organs removed during the mummification process. October 1926. 3 wooden chests in the center shaped like cartouches, accompanied by sandals, earrings, and other accessories. November 1926. Additional chests along with small boat models, likely representing solar boats. And now to the curse. The Curse of the Pharaohs. The most intriguing story and the origin of the term Curse of the Pharaohs. I must clarify that everything I'm about to share lacks scientific proof or verification in many cases, but it is widely circulated among believers and is remarkably cohesive. It is said that the story began with the opening of the tomb in the presence of Lord Carnarvon, who had been invited by Carter to attend the inauguration. A widely repeated unverified oral account, likely fabricated, suggests that the first thing to catch attention inside the tomb was an inscription, either on the coffin or the wall, reading, "Death shall come on swift wings to him who disturbs the peace of the king." Another version claims the warning read, "Whoever desecrates the sanctity of the tomb shall be struck down." Additionally, a statue was reportedly inscribed with, "I am the protector of the tomb of Tutankhamun. I will drive away the tomb robbers with the flame of the desert." 2 warnings in a single tomb? While curses weren't unheard of in ancient Egyptian inscriptions, finding 2 in one place was unusual. In fact, curses were more prevalent during the Old Kingdom, more than 1,000 years before Tutankhamun's era, as tomb robbery was considered dishonorable. As such acts became more common, later curses were often more explicit and severe, such as one mentioned by Dr. Zahi Hawass. "He who disturbs the king's rest shall suffer from an ailment no doctor can cure." It's said that Carter was the only one who noticed the 2 warnings. Alarmed, he erased them himself to avoid frightening the workers or causing them to refuse to work. While the idea of a curse wasn't new, with tales of disasters and tragedies befalling those who robbed Egyptian tombs circulating for ages, this time, the events were notably different. The first thing the group noticed were signs of tampering by thieves. While there was evidence that intruders had entered the tomb, nothing appeared to be missing. Why? How did they gain entry but take nothing? What stopped them? Fear. A sudden change of heart? No one knows for sure. Adding to the mystery, Carter had brought his beloved pet canary and left it in his room while he visited the excavation site. At the moment the tomb was opened, his assistant heard a commotion on the balcony where the bird's cage was kept. Investigating the noise, he found a cobra, the royal serpent symbol of protection, inside the cage, killing the bird. The assistant killed the snake, but the canary was already dead. This incident was even reported in the New York Times on December 22, 1922. Here are additional tales from the same period and type, including some recounted by the renowned late Egyptian writer Anis Mansour, along with other lesser-known stories. The case of archaeologist Mohammed Zakaria. He was involved in the excavation and developed a mysterious fever that doctors couldn't diagnose. He died shortly afterward in the hospital. It's widely believed that he injured himself on a poisoned artifact from the tomb, or that bacteria trapped in the sealed air of the tomb for millennia may have caused his death. The death of Lord Carnarvon. Carnarvon himself developed a fever similar to Mohammed Zakaria's and died on April 5, 1923, at the Continental Hotel in Cairo. It is said that a mosquito bite on his cheek became infected while shaving, leading to blood poisoning. Strangely, the wound was in the same spot as a mark on Tutankhamun's face. Arthur Mace's decline. Mace, one of the archaeologists, fell into a coma and, after regaining consciousness, his health worsened rapidly. He suffered from severe heat sensations in his body and head, forcing him to leave Egypt and his work. He later died on April 6, 1928, reportedly due to blood poisoning. Richard Bethel's death. Bethel, Carnarvon's secretary, was found dead alone in his bed in 1929. The cause was determined to be suffocation. Later, his father committed suicide by jumping from the 7th floor in 1930. Hugh Evelyn White's tragic end. Another archaeologist, White, hanged himself in 1924, leaving a note written in blood that said, "I have succumbed to the curse and must disappear." It is thought he suffered a mental breakdown, likely caused by something he encountered in the tomb. Lord Carnarvon's dog. Carnarvon's favorite black dog reportedly barked frantically and then collapsed, dying at the exact moment of Carnarvon's death in Egypt. Carnarvon's family misfortunes. His sister broke her leg falling down the stairs, his other sister's fiancé abruptly ended their engagement, and his mother fell and injured herself. Carnarvon's half-brothers. Aubrey Herbert, Carnarvon's half-brother, suddenly went blind and underwent surgery to restore his sight. The operation resulted in infection and blood poisoning, leading to his death on September 26, 1923. Another half-brother, Mervyn Herbert, died of malaria on May 26, 1929. The case of Sir Archibald Douglas Reed, who X-rayed Tutankhamun's mummy, reportedly fell ill and died on January 24, 1924. Although some argue he lived a normal life afterward, the common account is that his death was mysterious. Carter's gift to Sir Bruce Ingram. Carter gave Ingram a paperweight made from a mummified hand adorned with a scarab bracelet inscribed with the words, "Cursed is he who moves my body. Fire, water, and plagues will pursue him." Soon after, Ingram's house burned down, and when rebuilt, it was destroyed again by a flood. Guests of the tomb. Millionaire George Gould, invited to the tomb by Carnarvon, contracted severe malaria and fever, dying on May 16, 1923. Another guest, Wolf Joel, died shortly after returning home due to a gunshot wound. Ali Pasha Fahmi's story. Ali Pasha Fahmi, a wealthy Egyptian and cousin of Huda Sharawi, visited the tomb after its opening. In 1923, following a fight with his French wife, Marguerite Miller, she shot him dead. She was acquitted and inherited his wealth. A sandstorm and blackout. A severe sandstorm struck the Valley of the Kings, coinciding with a power outage that affected all of Cairo. The whole idea is that the concept of the Pharaoh's curse has existed from the beginning, and people naturally love mysterious things and tend to exaggerate them, whether the events actually happened or not, and whether these were mere coincidences or not. From then on, the topic spread widely and became a common discussion, coining the term Pharaoh's curse. What fueled people's imaginations and further popularized the story was an article written by the mystic writer Marie Corelli and sent to New York World. In it, she described her imagination of the kind of punishment that would befall anyone who dared to rob or desecrate tombs. People took her words as absolute truth, believed them, and even added to them. Later, Arthur Conan Doyle, the famous author of Sherlock Holmes, claimed that Lord Carnarvon's death was caused by ancient entities placed by priests to guard the tombs. There are many interpretations trying to explain what happened. Some believe that the ancient Egyptians placed jinn guardians, referred to as Rasad, to protect their tombs from thieves. Others argue that they were scientifically advanced and created a scientific trick whereby opening the tomb and exposing it to air would trigger chemical reactions, releasing toxic substances into the air that caused fever, illness, or even death, whether through gases, parasites, or even by touch. In this case, the curse is real but has a scientific explanation, which could be the most rational interpretation. Additionally, there's the architectural design of the tombs and temples, which is believed to include traps, referred to in colloquial terms as mehalek, traps. These were specially designed so that intruders unfamiliar with their layout would get lost inside, become trapped, or be crushed by collapsing ceilings or fall into hidden pits. The main idea was that if you didn't know the way or weren't authorized, you wouldn't find a way out. And so the interpretations go on. Despite Howard Carter being the one who discovered the tomb and the first to enter it, nothing happened to him, at least not at the time. He rarely spoke about his experiences, But in his diaries, there's an entry from May 1926 describing the appearance of a whole pack of jackals around the camp. It was the first time he had seen this in his 35 years of work in the desert. For those who don't know, the jackal is the animal associated with the ancient Egyptian deity Anubis, the protector of tombs and the dead. Additionally, there are accounts that in Carter's later years, he would wake up terrified from nightmares and frightening dreams in which he saw himself in an ancient Egyptian temple surrounded by priests who lifted him and threw him into a large fire pot to burn him. He would wake up screaming in ancient Egyptian words, which he couldn't remember or understand upon waking. He eventually died at the age of 64 on March 2, 1939, alone in his London apartment, from Hodgkin's disease, whose symptoms include fever, severe sweating, and weight loss. If you recall, a few years ago, Dr. Zahi Hawass conducted a series of studies broadcast live, examining Tutankhamun's mummy in his tomb in Luxor. The examination involved using X-rays with a new device brought from abroad by National Geographic. Afterward, Dr. Zahi recounted that as soon as they began, a massive sandstorm suddenly hit and delayed their work. When the storm subsided, they removed the mummy from its coffin and placed it in the device, which immediately malfunctioned. This was extremely strange given that the device was new and had never been used before. Once it started working again, Dr. Zahi received a phone call informing him that his sister's husband had passed away. He decided to travel for the funeral and called then Minister of Culture Farooq Hosni to inform him, only to hear from the minister's secretary that Farooq Hosni had suddenly experienced extreme fatigue and irregular heartbeats, prompting doctors to admit him to the October City Heart Hospital. There are countless similar stories, most of them fabrications by the media or people seeking fame. However, this doesn't negate the fact that some truly strange and inexplicable events occurred. Whether you believe it or not, the subject remains very strange and incredibly intriguing. All of this information comes from various sources, so not everyone knows all of it, but now you're not one of them.